Today's episode is brought to you by PTZ Optics. This ability upgrade. New Wave Toys and their Replicate Amusements products. And
Boom shakalaka! Hey everybody, it's Tim Kitzer here, the voice of some of your favorite video games like NBA Jam and NFL Blitz. And I'm here to talk to you about Old School Gamer Magazine. It's the magazine for retro gaming, and it's exploding. Kaboom! Print issues come out every other month, and if you want to go green, digital options are available. Visit oldschoolgamer.com and subscribe now. That's oldschoolgamer.com. Boom shakalaka! Kaboom!
Let's see, we're taking bets. Paul's taking bets. My money is on audio issues with Steven. Let's see. I don't know.
You guys hear me?
I don't know.
And,
what are the
I'll
odds?
Explain something after.
What are the odds tonight?
Does it
Friday
work?
night.
Does
what are
it
the
work?
odds?
We got to do this. It's sad that we got to do this.
I think it's working. I think we have audio. I think we have video.
Do we, Paul?
I think so.
Let us know. Let us know if my audio's working.
I'm assuming it is. No one's screaming at me. I'm not getting texts. I'm not getting
Sound
IMs.
is good.
Oh!
Okay, good. It's a miracle.
Paul, what were the odds? What are we paying out?
Okay,
man?
so I got to
What's the payout?
explain something. None of the audio issues are here.
All in Canada. All
no,
Steven.
no,
every time.
No. So it's glad to have everybody here. I'm hopefully my video quality is a little bit better, it looks all right on the live stream, so that's good. So do we go down the list?
Yeah, Steven, I did last week.
Community list.
You got to do this week. Come on, read off our people in chat, bud.
All right, so we got the regulars. We got Jason, the AI, as Glenn likes to refer to him as. Jim, the Pacers fan. Okay, sure. And we got this guy named Glenn's Retro Show. I have no idea who that is. JT Brunwick, Rich Omgren. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Pliskin's Run, Hobby Hands, RM McCrae 114. We've got Jason again, Video Game Vegas, JJ, Darth Penguin 66, JR, Paul, Barron's our regular guy. He's like Norm from Cheers, obviously.
Norm!
Andy's Game Room. Who else we got in here? Sean, my cousin. Hello. Apkus, Stephen M. Jeff D. 2day4, John Puglia. Puglia? I don't know. Sorry, my pronunciation's pretty good usually. And we got Fred Burner 89. That's elite type there.
Clean like a mudder. I try to throw that in
Yep.
there.
Bill's Retro Gaming Show. Rich Raldo, Paul Capel, Adam Caleb, Detroit Love. We haven't seen Detroit Love in a while.
No, he's around. Detroit Love is around.
He comes in and out. Welcome. Charlie Chuck, Wagner's Tech Talk, Andy, and Gallagher Guy, and that's it. Everybody's on rinse and repeat. So welcome everybody on Friday.
Yeah, thank God.
It's not the 13th, it's the 8th. How's your week, Glenn?
You ever been put in a toilet and where there's a
Well,
big like where the guy from South Park did the poop test to see how big his poop was, right? And
I
I'm
haven't
in that
seen that episode, but I'll believe you.
I'm in that toilet, man, and I'm getting swirled around all week this week, and it was a shit week. But you know what?
So you were the turd getting tossed around.
I know I was being tossed around, and the turd was all over me. But you guys in the chat, this show Friday night starts anew. So the week is over. Shit happens. Things happen. You could do everything right, or you cannot do everything right. But you can try to do everything right, and things could still go wrong. And you know what? That's okay. We're all here together.
You do the best you can. That's it. That's all. And seriously, that's what life's all about. Do the best you can. Move the step forward. And if people don't like it, middle finger.
It is. Sometimes it is what it is. It's just. But I thank God for all of you guys here because I look forward to you guys every week, and we always have a good time. So
it's a good gang. We've got about 47 of you guys here tonight, right now, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's. I look forward to it. It's good. It's therapeutical, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Shit happens. Who are you gonna call? In my case, probably a plumber, I guess. That thing ain't going down. That ain't flushing this week. It ain't flushing.
I got operated on Monday. I was telling you that earlier. So
you got that lobotomy finally.
I got the lobotomy. I don't even know how my mouth is even moving with the lobotomy, but it was a minor surgery, so it
was a minor brain. So it worked out.
It was a small brain, a small walnut-sized brain. Yeah, sure. But so what's on the top? Already a super chat already.
Super chat. Gallagher Guy, 88. First of all, thank you. Super chats are really nice. You don't have to do it. Look at the sparkle on those Build-A-Case. We're going to talk about so many things today, but first you have to get some blue love here. Where might I put it? I wasn't ready. So thank you, Gallagher Guy 88. And you know what? That's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Obviously Nintendo, the big end. Steven, there's so many things to touch on this thing. So Nintendo, if you've been living under a rock, Nintendo basically sued out of existence was it Yuzu emulator?
Yuzu or something? Or...
It's the Yuzu review coming right at you. It's the Yuzu. If that's an old show.
I have no idea what you're singing.
It was an old show from the 60s. It was a frog, an owl, a hippopotamus, and then two hippies. It was called the New Zoo Review, and
then hippies. All right,
and you had to have hippies. So in any case, so this is a big thing now because obviously the people in this chat, the people in this community, emulators are a part of our lives as a whole. Obviously, the Build-A-Case runs on emulators.
I don't think most of the people here, number one, don't know what an emulator is and what that's all about in the end, because you've brought this community together through your videos over the years, and not that it's your primary focus, but in the end, I don't think we'd be preaching to these guys. What I mean? What this is really
the big thing is Nintendo has gone after people before. They went hard after them, and they collapsed within like a couple of days. They $2.4 million, had to take the site down. In fact, you know, if I build this up over here, let me see where I have it here. I have so many different, I need a bigger thing here. Let's see. Oop. Here we go. So, you know, hello, users. We'd like to inform you that basically we're done. They caved. And
Well, think about it. They're going to bury you in legal
well,
mumbo
here's
jumbo,
the
right?
right. Here's the thing. Is emulation piracy? Is emulation
That's what we're going to talk
wrong?
about tonight.
Right. So I think. Well, Steve, let me ask your opinion first. Say my opinion. What do you think about emulation? Is it wrong? Is it stealing? Is it immoral?
I sorry guys, my head was down. My daughter's texting me from she's gone shopping, and I got to pick her up after the show. As far as do I think it's wrong? I'll be honest with you. If it weren't for emulation, the arcade machines that I own and being able to want them again or to play them again, it's thanks to emulation like MAME. MAME was probably not the first one, but the first arcade one that
They really
and
took off. There were other ones. But it was the first one that really
yeah,
started
but that
to-
one there brought it back where, oh, I get to play Pac-Man. I haven't played that since I was 12 or whatever. And it brings that all back to the spotlight. And I don't think if it weren't for emulation, we wouldn't have the resurgence of retro gaming like we've had in the last 5 years or whatever. You know, COVID just magnified the whole thing,
Right.
but I don't think it would have happened. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't think it's wrong. Now, emulating newer stuff, there's a fine line there, in my opinion. It's like Yuzu was emulating the Switch. They're
Right.
still selling the Switch.
Right.
I think they should put that away for a few years until the Switch is dead, and then put it out. That's what I think, because I'm not for piracy, but I'm a proponent. If it ain't sold at the damn store anymore, go get it.
Right.
You know,
Real quick.
because in the end, they're
Real-
in the end they're going to end up at a secondhand store,
Right.
and you're paying double for the damn thing anyway. So
Right.
sorry,
Real
go
quick,
ahead.
we get a super chat from Wagner from Wagner's Tech Talk. Wagner, if you guys don't know him, of course you do. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Appreciate
Yeah,
you
go to
guys.
his channel. Pretty good.
He is great channel. He's great tutorials.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He's got a great accent. You know, if he was a girl, that southern accent would be all over him. But he's a guy, so maybe it works for women. I don't know. But appreciate you guys. Bummer about Yuzu. I think Nintendo will be using it in their Switch too. Hold on, we have to give him the
Blues Clues.
This will get old. I got to pick up more.
I was gonna say
It's gonna get old.
Blue's getting tired of running around.
He is.
So,
So I think you make a valid point. So continue along there.
no, so basically, in the end, I think if it weren't for emulation, we wouldn't have these discussions. We wouldn't have, like, let's say Pac-Man was dead in a landfill, then we could never touch it again. Emulation wasn't even a thing. We'd live a sad life, in my opinion, because that allowed us to relive those memories again.
Right.
You know,
And Video
and
Game Vegas makes a point. Emulation isn't piracy. Arcade 1-Up, At Games, so many different people, including the Build-A-Case, all
Yeah.
use emulation. Now it comes down to, for the most part, usually those emulators have licensed games on it. However, we know for a fact that Arcade 1-Up was using emulators illegally. So is it okay to pirate the emulator for your product?
well, there's
is that
usually usually emulators have a open source license of some sort,
Some
depending.
don't.
Like MAME, I know that MAME is completely open source. Go sell it, use it, whatever. From what I understand. Now that's not all of them, you know. So I think MAME falls into that. Hey, go sell it, put it on your machines, that sort of thing. I really think that emulation, if it's something current, be careful. So all I gotta say, like a Switch, emulating that's a bad idea, in my opinion, because it's still sold in stores. Like you could still go buy a copy of a game, and you could still. But if the game's gone, like a Xbox 360 is a perfect example, or PS3, you can't buy those games anymore. You can't find them. You can maybe find some in a grocery store for $5 that's still sealed that companies are liquidating, but they're not selling PS3 and Xbox 360 games anymore at all. They're not being sold. So go get them, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like I mean, if it was still sold at a store and there was still a developer and a company relying on those sales, fine. But Microsoft doesn't give a crap about 360 anymore. PS,
Well, you made a very
PlayStation.
valid point, and that was actually the thing I was going to say, and it was also brought up, I think, in the chat. Is emulation itself? It really does depend. I do think emulation of a current hardware platform that's being sold is where the problem lies. Now, a lot of the developers do want to challenge themselves. I remember before the N64 came out, the emulator came out. I forgot what the first one was that used high, HLE, the high level.
Yeah.
No one even
Yeah.
thought it was even possible, right? No one was like, it's impossible. They wanted to push, and that was a current console at the time. They were still selling N64 game cartridges, but they were proving that they could do it. So that's kind of one of the things what the developers are. They want to show they could do it. Now, with the I hope I pronounced it right, Yuzu, whatever it's called.
Yuzu. That's what I call it, Yuzu.
That what actually was going on was, yes, to play the games, you had to get decryption keys, and some games were pirated.
It's a process.
However, playing it on it was better than the Switch. You had higher frame rates.
Oh yeah,
better resolution. You had things that weren't available.
It was a better Switch than the Switch.
Exactly. So there were people legitimately buying the games to playing
them on there. Yeah.
Now, obviously, the most certainly were people who were not. I mean, there's no question that was going on. Sure. The Zelda game was a prime example. Before it was even launched, the ROM was out there and people were playing it. And here, Hobby Hands, here's another great example. Absolutely. Bleem. Bleem, again, was an emulator for the Dreamcast that actually
I think,
increased resolution, did all these things.
That was a PlayStation emulator.
Dreamcast. It was a Dreamcast emulator, but you could take PlayStation games on the Dreamcast, but then it was Dreamcast once for the PC.
Oh, that's right.
Originally, Bleem was an emulator that just played, PlayStation games or Dreamcast games on it.
I have a Bleem disc.
But they charged. That was the thing. They also charged for the emulator. So then that became kind of a problem. That's what happened here with the Yuzu. That was their problem. They were taking, I think, $30,000 a week in donations.
Oh, to me, that's not okay to some level. But I did want to stress another point with emulation. That's when we were talking about this before the show, is the flip side of the whole thing. So some of the games over the last 5-6 years, they've jacked up in price. So it becomes unobtainium for the rest of us to play these old things. Like, if you want to play Pac-Man or you want to play an NES game, or if you want to go buy it at the used store, legitimate, the prices are through the roof.
They are.
That you're like, and the price of, what are you going to do? Price of groceries or price of a retro game?
The price of food right now, you probably can sell a game and buy an egg.
A week's worth of food.
But, here's the thing, too. They squished the Yuzu, whatever, and there's two other ones that pop up. So, yes, okay.
It's trackable.
They is. Now, the thing is, my understanding is these are free. They're not charging for it. So maybe the bigger problem was that they were charging for a current
the money
platform. But, again, I think that's what windows up here. The problem is,
with the windows.
And Steve, you brought up before, a lot of these older systems, older consoles, older arcade machines, a lot of the games weren't popular. If it wasn't for emulation like MAME,
they'd be forgotten.
They would be forgotten and gone. The hardware platform.
And then there's some gems in there too, which is cool because I've played some games on MAME that I was like, I've never seen this ever. Because let's face it, as children during the 80s, we'd go to the corner store. There'd be 10 games there, let's say. And they'd, whatever, and they'd rotate them out every 2-3 months or whatever. You'd go there, the game was either gone or you never saw the game ever. But then your buddy in Toronto or Ottawa or New York City or whatever had a bigger arcades. They'd be like, hey, yeah, see this game? And you never got to see it because that era, there was no internet. So by the time you heard the news, it was 6 months later or whatever, right? So you didn't get to play those hidden gems out there. So MAME brought that back to when, hey, you want to try that game that you forgot? Like if it weren't for Daphne, I wouldn't be playing Cliffhanger ever again.
Right.
Like I couldn't. You can't find a laser disc version, an arcade machine of Cliffhanger. You have
No.
a better chance of getting struck by lightning. You
Well,
know what I mean? Like that's the problem.
that's a
So,
big thing. But I understand Nintendo's stance in this
oh, me
particular
too.
case because it was a current platform. Now it was doing a better Switch than their Switch. There's no question. Everyone kind of agrees that it was a better way to have the experience, but it
Mhm.
was a current system that people were absolutely getting.
Still buying.
Well, they were buying, but they were definitely getting ROMs illegally. They definitely were. They were current
Well,
games,
yeah, that's right.
and they were doing it. So in that particular case, I did understand that level. But now the question becomes, does that trickle down to, like we were talking a second ago, ColecoVision, Vectrex? Now, ColecoVision, Vectrex are probably two ones I probably should have brought up because both of them are almost kind of public domain by the by the manufacturers. Definitely the
Yeah.
Vectrex. Vectrex is public domain. You can't sell them, but you can actually download them, play them on emulators, do whatever you want. But these older systems, is that really a
Well, look at
problem?
it this way. Look at it this way. On my Coleco site, I have Donkey Kong Jr. for the ColecoVision that I got somewhere else from Atari age, actually. I never got an email from Nintendo going, take our Donkey Kong off of there for the ColecoVision. I don't think they really care, but it's a possibility that I'll get a nasty email one day and have to be forced to take down the Nintendo games.
Well, here's
Now,
again what you
you
just
know what I
said.
mean? Like,
Video Game Vegas made that kind of example. Nintendo, they actually have their own emulation platform in their e-store, but
yeah,
each time they shut down a console, they go buy those games again. It's not like they say, okay, you
yeah,
purchased
yeah.
the games on the 2DS, but now you're going to play on your Switch. You have to buy it again. Versus, it's emulated anyway. Pull over your DLC. This big thing with DLC. Pull it over versus having to repurchase, which you did again. So Nintendo is like the United States government taxing you when you earn your money, taxing you when you spend your money. Then they look at you a little bit more. So you know what? Let's tax you again. That's kind of the same type of thing.
Yeah, and it works for them, unfortunately, but in the end, it's like, what do you do? I think everybody in this chat room has done what I've done at least more than once. But that's the thing. What do you and the other thing too, I find with emulation, you get to try stuff, you know, maybe before you buy it. Like I'll tell you something about Nintendo. Their games stay $80 in Canada. They're $80 and they stay like that for years. While every other game on the market goes either half price or 40%, 20% off. But Nintendo, forget it. Emulators do what Nintendo don't. Yeah, the Sega. But that's what
Sega.
I'm getting at is that's what I'm saying is that it's a touchy subject, obviously, but in the end, I really think that
Well,
emulation has saved the day. To
It's
be
more than a
honest,
touchy subject. These guys were sued and have to pay $2.4 million.
yeah,
They got to pay two
they,
four. That's
they
not.
probably have it
Well, maybe they do, maybe
unless
they
they
don't.
spent it all. But
Maybe
you
they
gotta
do.
sell your Ferrari now. Sorry, How did they think they could get away with this, especially with Nintendo? Nintendo's ruthless with their stuff.
Well, look at you with
So
not you, but look at the Switch with the hack to let you play the games on the Switch. Right? There was that little hack where you can crash the Switch and then you can
oh yeah,
load
yeah.
games on the Switch. So you can actually, because Nintendo's other thing was you're not playing it on our hardware. You can't. Our license says you need to play the Switch games on a Switch. You can't play it on non-Switch. Well, there were people who were able to crash the Switch and load
Yeah.
games on the Switch. So
We
how
don't
does that
know
come
anything
into play?
about that, do we, Glenn? No, we don't know anything about
Yeah,
that.
I know everything. I don't have it, but I'm going to tell you that if Nintendo's lawsuit was, hey, you guys are pirating stuff, you're playing our games,
Yeah.
but it's not being played on a Switch. Well, guess what? You can play it on the Switch. You can do a very simple 3D printed piece, crash your Switch, and load game ROMs on an original Switch hardware. So now, Is that a problem, Nintendo? Because it seems like you're saying it is on both sides of your mouth.
And in Canada, you're legally allowed to do a backup of your game. You're allowed.
You are, but
It's the
you know what
law.
Nintendo says? Nintendo says you're not.
In
Nintendo says you're
Canada,
not.
it's the law. So I know what you're saying, but in Canada, it's the law. You're allowed to make a backup copy of your media, basically, whether
Absolutely.
it's a movie, whether it's a game, that sort of thing. Now, maybe that's changed over the years, and these bigger companies have, muscled their way around the government. But in the end, I don't know. I think emulation is okay if it's not being sold at the store anymore. That's where I
the
stand
next thing
with
too
it.
is it comes down to, what you do behind closed doors. I'm not talking about, that type of thing, but when you purchase something, when you have
if you want to wear leather and put an apple in your mouth,
but the point is,
dress
what
up
you're
as Little Bo
doing-
Peep, you go ahead.
what you're doing with your stuff is really your business. Now, I understand if you're selling it. That's I get that.
Yeah.
You're selling
Selling
it,
is just
absolutely.
wrong. Yeah.
But for Nintendo to say you have to play your stuff on and
Their
only
hardware.
on our Switch, you're not going to tell me how I'm going to. I bought the game. That's what gets me about these companies. When you buy something, it's just like the government. I buy this house, I buy this property, it's mine. It's not. If I don't pay my taxes, the government just walks right in. They'll take it. So no matter how many times I pay my house over, pay off the land, I don't own anything. It's still owned by really the state. And they're trying to say the same thing when you purchase product. When you buy a game, you buy a console, you own a license to use it in your home. They're telling you
That's
you
sad.
do not own it. That $80 you spent in that game, it's not your game. It's my game as long as you abide by the license. And to me, that's bullshit. If I spend the money on that product, that is my product. I'm playing it, period.
You could put a hole through the damn thing if you want. You know what I mean? Like you do what you want with it. And I think that's the way it should be. Jason just said you can legally make a backup of your own games in the US too. So
yes,
on the Switch, it's impossible. Not impossible. Sorry. It's not easy. It's doable. It's just not easy to back up a Switch game. And you're legally allowed
to Nintendo is trying to circumvent our right in both our countries to say I can make a backup. They're saying, no, you can't. You're not entitled to do that.
But the thing is that their games are $80 for 5 years. It's stupid. It just bothers me. Like when I go to Walmart, I own a Switch. When I go to Walmart and then I look at Super Mario Odyssey or Zelda, the first one, Link to the Past or whatever that came out on the Switch and the Wii U.
Right.
The first, it's still $80. Like how many years later? 4 or 5 years later, that game is still $80. Meanwhile, every other console will have a game and it's like, hey, half off or whatever, and then they make it more approachable.
Video Game Vegas made a good point. He's saying that that's why companies ship unfinished games. You don't actually own a physical copy. You have to rely on the rest of the game's servers to download it. So
patch it because they released it broken.
That's a very good point. I didn't really think of that aspect of it. So
it's a mixed bag right now. It's a
Ubisoft. There was a whole big thing with the Ubisoft. That guy's like, just get used to it. You're not owning the games. You're paying for them, but it's not your game. And Video Game Vegas kind of said in a different way. You buy a physical disc. A lot of these games are not complete on them, and you have to wait and download them. And servers again go down. SOL. But again, that's where emulation comes to the save again. I know for like World of Warcraft or one of those games, Steven, the game was shut off, the servers were shut off, and then someone made their own server so people can continue playing the game.
It was the one that comes to mind is City of Heroes.
There you go. There's one.
City of Heroes, the servers got shut down, and the community took it upon themselves to get everything up and running again, and still patch the game to this day. They made an agreement with, and JJ said something too. He says $60 in the States too, but you're right. It's only for first-party titles.
Right.
But to me, a 5-year-old game should be on, on a discount or something. And I agree with Paul. Steam games are great because you put something on your wish list. It tells you if it's 50% off, you buy it. I bought, did I buy the other day? I bought Doom, the original Doom and Doom 2 for $1.50 each.
Can you play it on your lawnmower? Because it runs on everything.
Didn't try it, but hey, at least I own a legit copy of Doom now.
Paul,
I have Quake 2 legit over there, but yeah.
Well,
I
here's
mean,
Paul. Paul saying, flash forward 10 years, nothing will be physical media anymore. And that's why I don't buy any of the current gen.
it sucks.
I don't buy any
He's
of the current
right,
gen.
and it sucks.
The-
Anything modern won't be
The
physical
most
anymore.
modern thing I have, well, it's not true. My son's got the Switch. He's got the Switch, not me. Xbox 360 was it for me. I have nothing older than a 360. And I only bought that really because everyone talks so big on Halo and Gears of War, and they're great games. That's the only
they're
reason
great
why I
games,
got
for
that.
sure. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, he's right. Paul's right. 10 years, you're not going to have physical stuff anymore. I just hope that communities and ISPs give us better internet as a result.
Not in
because,
this country.
well, you and I were talking about this week. Hey, Glenn, what's your internet speed? And they're asking us to download all these damn game patches and whatever. I'm running a 300 megabit down and 10 megabit up connection speed. It's okay. It works. But multiply that times 3 or 4 for the amount of people in my house. My son's game starting to patch, download, hogging almost 300 megabits. Then I come in and another patch and another patch. You know what I mean? Like, it's putting out fires. It's crazy.
Well, I'm sure the people have in the States, you're like, I'm paying for 400 meg down, 40 up. I never get anywhere near those.
Yeah.
And you guys watch our show, so you know it's true. You're all my witnesses.
Yeah.
I am not getting what I'm paying for. It's just a fact. But
Well, that's the
here,
thing.
it's a monopoly. When I have Cablevision, which is Optimum, and because that's here, I can't have anyone else. They are the only one allowed.
The kingpins.
They're the kingpins. It's like the garbage company. You can't pick your own garbage company. You can't pick a cable company. You can't.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And that's what's messed up because it should. You should be able to say, well, I'm not happy with the cable company. Let me get fiber. I'm not happy with the fiber. Let me get Starlink. Well, I guess I could get Starlink, but the point is,
that's the thing.
it's a monopoly. But that's okay because someone's paying those politicians for that monopoly. So that monopoly is okay.
Yeah. Well, in the end, too, I think in the end, I don't think emulation is going to go anywhere, even if all these companies get lawyers and all that stuff. Behind closed doors, people are still going to be closet emulator, ROM hack connoisseurs and consumers. You know what I mean? They're not going to be paying anything to anybody because they all want stupid money. They all want to cash in. They all want their Ferrari before they die. And they're going to do everything they can. Like, let's face it. Check this out. So you remember a few years ago, Nintendo released we're picking on Nintendo tonight.
Yeah.
Is that they released the NES Mini. Okay.
Yes.
Before that thing was released, I remember you, Glenn, had somebody had made the case and everything, and they were,
yes,
it wasn't even a thing from Nintendo. Then Nintendo went, oh, we own that. And they only made a couple, or, not even enough for the supply and demand.
Right.
That just goes to show how disconnected these people are, and then they go and put it on their online and all their ROMs. And it's just sad. To me, it's just sad because if it weren't for us with emulation and playing these games again, they wouldn't have a market.
Well, Steven, this one's for you. This one's for you. FPGA. You got the Mister. It's
I
still
have
emulation.
the Mister.
It's still emulation.
It's hardware emulation, but
Yes.
FPGA, I think, is the best hardware preservation project ever. I mean, on there, they got a Nintendo 64 emulator on the Mister. It's near perfect. It's amazing. PlayStation 1. What's the other consoles that they have in there that it goes up to that? Sega Saturn, I think, is on there too. So Sega Saturn, PS1, and what was the other one I said? I forget. Nintendo 64. So all those three consoles, that era, runs perfectly on the Mister.
They
and the Mister
have
fits in the palm of your hand.
N64 emulator that runs good?
Yeah. It runs really good.
Nice.
You could play Mario 64, dude, and it's great. And then not just these consoles. You get all the consoles. You get all the computers. You get all the arcade machines, all in this thing on an SD card, and it's hardware cycle accurate because it reprograms that FPGA chip. It's great. A Commodore 64 runs perfect on there. and you could shut it off and run a ColecoVision 5
Well, the
seconds
thing is now
later
the
or whatever.
Mister has gone up in price quite a bit, and I think
It
actually
has.
now, the Mister chip is getting a little long in the tooth, and I know they're kind of looking at new, more powerful FPGAs. 'Cause
Well, I think they're looking at alternative chips because I
Right.
think the
DC-10,
the DE10 Nano it's called, but
Right.
the chip that's on there, the Tegra chip, I think it is, that's becoming extremely expensive. So I don't know what direction all that's going to go into.
I got a good idea for those guys for the Mister project. Software emulation. Just write some code. There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah, it's you know what? If you want to do hardware emulation, get the Mister. If you want to do software emulation it's a more budget approach, software emulation, but it works good. I mean, it's so refined now. It's like a fine wine. It's so good. Like the cycle accuracy is really good.
Keep going
Like
to the
your
wrong way.
Viper, for example, that runs probably just about anything perfectly,
Well,
or pretty darn close.
some things, definitely older ones, and I'm just pulling up right here on Wikipedia. List of all these kind of emulators that are out there. So I'm sure you guys know most of these, if not all. Visual pinball. There's a big one, and there's a lot of stuff coming out. I think in the next month or two about visual pinball, about being a little more optimized for different platforms. I've been testing
That was
it.
clunky, that thing, but
It's gotten
hopefully
better.
they
That's
got
what I'm
it better.
saying. There's a
Yeah.
new build coming out. It's like an all-in-one build for visual pinball. That's actually what I had running over here, but it looks like the power kind of ran out on one of my what did I go over here? Dun dun dun. Beep. My center one. The power power must have ran out of the battery. But on the right
It
side,
died.
that's using a Latte Panda, a 7-inch screen, a backglass. It's running visual pinball. Now, the Latte Panda is not the most powerful, so I'm kind of limited to how many different pinballs I can run. Fortunately, thankfully, Tron runs great on it. I have to turn the performance down. Now, the center one is a brand new one I got just recently. I'm going to do a video on it. I won't go too much into it. It's not even working now anyway. But that one's running a much more powerful machine. So the pinball system specs that hardware is required is kind of going down. Now, of course, it's not going to be like a $5,000 pinball machine with
Yeah.
crazy frame rates and crazy physics. But to play a little pinball on it, they are coming about, and I'll have a video maybe this weekend, if not maybe next weekend, on that. But look at all these different emulators. You have Ikari, obviously you have Stella. Stella's been around a really long time.
Oh yeah, that's the 2600 one, I believe.
Yep. And then of course you got Nintendo. You had the FCEUX. That was like, and that Nesticle.
FCE, that's the PC Engine one, I think.
Well, the FEUX is NES. Those are the first two I ever played. Then NES-topia. Then of course NESX, 9X, and ZNES were big for the Super Nintendo. Nintendo 64 had a lot. Project 64, obviously, it was Ultra HLE. There we go. Ultra
Ultra HLE
was the very first one that blew my mind to see that actually working on a machine and fast. GameCube.
I think a lot of this stuff is like, let's face it, most companies need to thank the emulation community and programmers, because there's a lot of stuff they wouldn't be able to do without emulation. Do you think that they made their own emulator? No. They never got off their ass to do it. Like the NES Mini.
Didn't the PlayStation, they rip off someone's emulator? And
they did. They all did. Nintendo just took something off the shelf because they own everything. So they just said, oh, we're taking that. And their products wouldn't exist otherwise. You think their, what is it, the WiiWare, like you could, on the Wii store, you could buy those. That's running emulation, and they all the emulators are open source, so Nintendo can just modify it a little bit and call it their own.
Right.
That's like, you know what I mean? Like companies like Nintendo, I find that they're digging a bigger hole than they should. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying about this Yuzu thing about their Switch that's still being sold, but I've seen them go after the NES. You can't even go buy an NES. Why do you care? You know what I mean? If you could still buy an NES, then I could see you getting.
Well, I think they're doing it because you could do it in their virtual store, couldn't you? You could play NES games.
Yes. Yeah, but they don't have everything because of licensing, right? So they third party, whatever, they have to get the license from that third party to play. But
Right.
still,
Now, to Video Game Vegas, we're saying right here, you're right. But on a small 1/6 scale pinball with a small 7-inch screen, you don't need those kind of resolutions. So, fortunately, your hardware requirements will be a little bit less. Fortunately.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Stephen. Go ahead.
No. I'm yawning
Am I
here a
boring
little
you
bit.
now?
I apologize.
Jesus, am I
Yeah,
boring you
like
now?
so let's fall asleep. But I think emulation is not going to go away. People are still going to do it because
Oh,
guess what?
I gotta
In
post
the
back
end,
up.
we still want to play our games without lawyers being
Well,
involved.
here we go. So, you had the Wii U, you had Dolphin, you had Game Boy, and then you had, Nintendo Switch. Oh, boy. No, you don't. Boom. That's
The
they
slippery
they
slope.
they gotta update this Wikipedia soon.
Well,
That's
what's the other one? The Citra, which was the Wii U and Wii emulator,
yeah, it's one right here. Yep.
and that one apparently got slapped on the fingers too. And I'm like, why do you guys care? Like, why do you guys care? And I think Citra also emulated the 3DS. Are they still selling 3DSs? I don't think you can buy a 3DS anymore, right?
You probably can get it on eBay. I don't
No,
think
no, I meant
anyone's being sold.
retail,
I
Walmart,
don't think so. I
whatever.
think
They
it was,
don't.
it was discontinued, wasn't it?
I think they're done. That ship has sailed. I believe. So why would they give a crap? You know what I mean? Like they're trying to. I'll be honest with you. Nintendo is not looking good for me. Period. I am not a Nintendo fan. Not that I used to be that much, but their lawyers and all that muscling around and all that stuff, they're not doing it right, in my opinion. So
Real quick, Andy asked me about the Sinden Pro. It's actually the Sinden Target Pro, and it's gonna be any day. It's been on a boat. As soon as it gets into the dock, it goes to the warehouse. So literally any day, you guys should start getting notifications on it. So yeah,
that's the boomstick.
that is the boomstick. Yes. So
Sorry.
any day. And actually, same thing with the Viper. I just approved the box. The box will be shipping it in. So the Viper ship is coming out soon. Still working on the iiRcade Ultimate switcher. Again, there's some things I want to fix. I want it done right. And same thing with New Wave Toys. I was talking to Shiloh. He's still having some issues with some other people that are involved. So he's got to get that all sorted out.
Let's all be patient.
Yes, we're gonna have to be. We're gonna have to be because if Shallow's not here, we can't announce anything. So that's
Yeah.
still coming.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's emulators brought it all back for me. Period.
Well,
I don't know what.
Distant Earth made a point, and you and I agree with this. Yes, it is always preferable to have original hardware.
Of course, yeah.
The problem is
if you can't,
they eventually are going to stop working. Maybe it will be good in our generation, but like our kids or their kids' kids, there'll probably be a few working, but they're going to be very hard to find.
Let's face it. So, Glenn and I actually met through a ColecoVision repair that you did on your channel.
Yep.
And I hit you up on it, whatever. So the
Biggest
reality
mistake in my life, man.
here we are. The reality is this stuff breaks. Whether it's arcade machines, I have a bunch of them. You turn them on one day, they don't work anymore.
Right.
The
That's a rotten
ColecoVision.
feeling. When you get that console,
Oh, it
take
is.
out the box, and it's dead. Oh,
Yay!
man.
Oh, then you got to repair it. Then you got to learn electronics, and if you're not good at electronics, you're bringing it to a friend, and they might screw it up because they know nothing about this old stuff. So this old stuff doesn't last.
Right.
That's the problem, and that's
Just
why
like
emulation
us, man.
exists.
Steve and I, we're not gonna last either. Well, it'll be a couple
Nope.
of years. We have a good run, and then
Yeah.
that's it.
But that's the thing. It's really weird that, like I don't know. I'm
Josh
just
hit it on the head here.
like a 3-year-old throwing a tantrum.
They never played with it, but I want it back. It's mine. Give it to me.
Yeah, power tripping, and this stuff just doesn't last. And thanks to emulation, it's gonna last. That's the reality with all this stuff.
Well, Hobby hands me another good point. Original hardware, especially the old stuff, doesn't look very good on LCDs.
Doesn't hook up to HDMI most of it.
And maybe
unless
your
you buy mod
CRT
kits and
gives out, or CRT is going bad.
yeah, because that stupid thing is 30 years old too.
More than that now.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, could be right. Maybe you're right.
Like all this stuff is moving up and it's dying. You just.
But that's the thing. That was the whole point originally of emulators. Well, that's not true. The first thing was to see if it could be done. These guys really wanted to see if they could make a PC or a Mac or some other platform run that stuff. That was like the first thing, like a demo scene. Then it became, you know what? We get this to working. Now we need to preserve. And I'm going to be honest. When I look through MAME or NES or these other machines, I see games I've never even heard of.
Yeah, and you could check them out. You're like, hey, this is pretty cool.
No, I was gonna say not to mean that they're any good. There might be a good one here or there. A
No,
lot of them
all
are
of
not
them are-
good, but
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
someone still put the heart and soul. You know, little Tron, little Flynn, little Clue, they're in there. They're programmed. Someone put time into it. It's, like I keep thinking of Action 52 for the was it for the Genesis or NES? I forgot. Actually, it is so bad. It is like
Oh yeah, there's a lot of like boat anchors. You know,
boat hack.
and-
That's a good idea.
like Bill's retro show, he says he's glad he's got a friend to fix this stuff.
I hope he's enjoying.
Not
his
everybody's got
ColecoVision.
that. Not everybody knows how to fix this stuff. I've gone to repair shops and they look at this stuff and it's like so old, they have no idea what to do. They have no clue. They're like, I don't know what to do with this, and they just, you know.
Stephen M. makes a good point. As a famous YouTuber once said, the fans are doing the best work. As long as there's interest, the community will be the ones that
Yeah.
keep the older systems, games alive. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, look at like in Texas, there's other video game museums around there. Eventually, they're not going to want you touching the original hardware. It's going to be literally a museum piece. But if you want to play these games, it's going to have to be done through emulation. Now,
It ain't these companies that are doing these things. It's not.
well,
It's not the
they
companies
ignored
going, hey,
us.
I'm gonna make.
They ignored us for years, and then they finally realized with a couple of minis and a couple of things.
Oh,
they're
there's
like,
a market here.
There's
There's
a
money.
market,
Oh.
right? But they ignored us for years and years and years. So, to them. All I
Well,
gotta say.
if it weren't for hardworking, smart guys, we'd have none of this stuff. Arcade 1-Up wouldn't even exist. You know, like think
Well-
about it. If emulation didn't exist, Arcade 1-Up and other companies
Right,
would not
because they
exist
couldn't
at all.
build an arcade board and sell it, for the ridiculous
wouldn't
price
happen.
to sell for anyway. But that's regardless. But
It-
Video
wouldn't
Game
happen.
Vegas made a point here. They still don't have sound. They also don't have the backdrop. But Discotron, they could put the backdrop in. If you go into MAME, you can enable a backdrop for that Discotron
Yeah.
scene. So they're just lazy. They always were. They always will be. The garbage products. To them too.
Emulation will allow you to do all that stuff if it's done right, you know. And I
Like
don't
us
know.
old people with our joints, he's right. Solder joints go bad in them. Sometimes they have to be reflowed. So that's true. So elbows, knees, they go.
Capacitors need to be replaced.
That's the thing. You really got to be
Isopropyl alcohol's your best
batteries,
friend.
those Varda batteries.
Oh yeah,
Right. If you think you're putting your machine in a box, you put it in the shelf for 10, 15, 20 years, you're protecting
that's
it.
an accident waiting to happen.
Maybe not. Capacitors dry out, and then you fire that thing up, and the capacitor just goes. Now, usually that's fixable.
Batteries do that too.
The
Glenn.
batteries are bad. Batteries
They
are bad.
explode too. Okay, I'll tell you a little story here, so people could. There's a YouTube channel. I forget his name. Basically, Luke Morse arcade stuff. So he has what they call. I have two of them. A CPS2 arcade board. It's
Right.
basically two halves on a cartridge half and a CPU half. And there's a battery in there. It's called a suicide battery. Well, this guy said he got this thing in. He put it away for 6 months. That's it, 6 months. He opened it up. The acid exploded all over the board. He had to redo traces.
Oh boy.
That gave me the heebie-jeebies enough to take mine out and cut the battery out. And then I put one of these things called the Infinity Key, which gives it the encryption key that it
Right.
used to unlock the game.
Right.
But I saw that and I went, okay, I'm doing
But
this
again,
today.
that's
Whoop.
kind of like an emulation thing as well. I mean, what if that increased?
Well, yeah.
You could have had a working board, the battery dies. There's no way to go to Capcom and get or
Your
anyone get
encryption
the
key.
key. There's no way to do it. So
No.
if you couldn't reverse engineer and hack that encryption key, that board
You're
would
done.
be dead. Even though it's fine, but it's just rebooted. There was no key.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So it's the original Xbox. I can go on about the original Xbox. Basically, the original Xbox. The clock capacitor leaks all over the place.
Oh boy.
And, the one I sent you, Glenn, I think I yanked it out. So you're good.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure I did. I'm not 100% sure. And then you got to replace the the thermal paste on the GPU and the CPU because
Right,
it
that
dries
dries
up
out.
after 20 years.
Yep.
And that's a relatively modern console, the original Xbox. And try to hook that up now to a modern television.
Right.
Not that it's impossible. Thank God these smart folks have made adapters and all this stuff. But in the end, it's not that far back. The original Xbox. It's 20 years
But it's
old.
still fairly common. I agree with Hobby
Yeah.
Hands. I have 2
Yeah.
Vectrex consoles. When they go, I will be truly, truly sad.
Sad.
If you
Yeah.
people have not experienced playing on a Vectrex, you're missing out. If it wasn't for the gaming crash, North American gaming crash, that system would have done really well, I think. It was pretty damn powerful, had its own monitor, which has to be, capped, and there's so much more work that has to be done on it. But when they go, I'm going to be truly sad. They do
It's a
emulate
vector
it.
monitor, isn't it?
It is. They do
Yeah,
emulate it,
okay.
and it does a pretty good job. But just again,
It's on Mister actually.
watching that screen come on, that phosphor glow, it's just, and the sound effects.
yeah.
It's just such a great console. First console to have a 3D imager, a working 3D imager on that console. They had a light pen on that console. They had speech on that console. It's amazing. And they were going to come out with a color version, but the crash happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
they were going to go with a color version, like Tempest.
I think they could have licensed more games on the Vectrex.
Yeah.
I think they didn't have enough licensed games. Like there was Tempest. I don't think there was Tempest on
No,
the
because
Vectrex.
Ikari, they couldn't get
That would have been cool to see that on there, as a licensed game or whatever.
You know what I was surprised to see? Someone, because the Vectrex is what it says. It's vector graphics. But there's actually a version of Space Invaders using raster graphics. And it blew my mind. It just blew my mind to watch Space Invaders, and it was a good port. But there's also a homebrew version of like Asteroids. And that's the machine to play that game.
Okay, so a little safety warning. If you're planning on fixing a vector monitor, don't put your hands near the back because the voltage on there is a lot higher than a regular CRT.
No, it'll kill you. You'll be dead.
Oh yeah, your heart will probably stop.
You will be dead.
You'll have a new hairdo and your heart will be fried. But apparently vector monitors are very dangerous compared to CRTs. The higher voltage to crank out the vector images, it's a lot more. So don't put your lips on there in case you're, feeling lonely one night. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I don't want to spit my stuff through my nose, Steven, so you got to hold on a second.
But yeah, so I want to hear some people in the chat on what they think about emulation, and I'm sure everybody's done it at least once.
Of course they've done it.
They're here.
Done it.
Well, that's the thing. And do you think it's okay? Do you agree with my comments or Glenn's comments?
I think me and you mostly pretty much agree.
We're on the same page.
I think so. Very rare.
Yeah. I don't think somebody's going to be in the chat going, "You guys are full of crap," So, but in the end,
but I was covered in crap most of the week.
Yeah. So I think this is I won't say it's a touchy subject. It's more of a. It's almost like taboo.
Ethical? Is it an ethical
It's
subject?
kind of taboo a little bit, where it's kind of illegal, but you don't know if it is or not. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, well, I got these ROMs, I'm playing them. I think it's when you start selling this stuff is when it becomes wrong.
Well, you're not supposed to.
You're selling the ROMs,
Pretty much all the emulators say you can't sell it with, games. Of course they do. You go on eBay, you go on Amazon, you could buy
like
a memory stick
those
with
Chinese boards are notorious for that. It's
all
every game ever.
It does happen. I was going to say something too. I forgot where I was going. I saw a comment.
Hobby Hands disagrees with you 100%, but me 100%. They agree with me.
That's fine.
Sure.
Hobby Hands, I could agree with him.
I'll be okay with that. Thanks, Hobby Hands. But it's a subject where is it going to get better? Like right now, exactly. Emulation sounds naughty. It's kind of like, I do it, but
I hate to say it, because they're already looking at you. Everyone's looking at you already. They're using the little camera on their Switch or the camera on your Wii U.
Yep. And that's the thing with these emulators. But I think companies need to be a bit more community sensitive, in my opinion. I see Nintendo walking around like they're the big man on campus, and they literally do it, I think, out of being sadistic a little bit. Sometimes you're kind of like, okay, there, guys. Like, there's sometimes I'm like, okay, like this is sad, you know.
Well, like on
And
my Build-A-Cade, we have Batacera, a RetroPie. We have a licensed game, Robbie Roto. After what you do on that is up to you. It's you own it. What you want to do with it is up to you.
yeah,
But that's how it should be. That's how it should be.
that's the thing. They don't make it available to buy this stuff either. And this could go a little bit too into retro games in general, where there's PC emulators with PC games now,
Yeah, like
you know,
DOSBox, which is
or
great.
what is a PCM or whatever. There's a few of them out there nowadays that'll emulate like an old voodoo card or whatever. It's like,
Oh,
oh, gee, it gives you hairy
don't
palms.
look at my hands.
But it's out there. Like, what are PC emulators gonna do now? Like, are they? You know what I mean? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I'll tell you something that I've noticed the other day on Steam.
Yep.
I bought games on Steam that don't run anymore at all.
Right. Because you
Steam
have
doesn't keep them up.
two new processor or
Hardware.
something like that, or
Yeah, yeah.
operating system. Yeah, got it.
And then you're like, well, what's your alternative to go pirate it and emulate it? Really, you don't have a choice. You bought the thing, but you can't run it anywhere. Or do you build yourself a 100-year-old PC that'll probably fry if you look at it wrong? You know what I mean? It's a vicious cycle.
But you made a good point. So, especially like on the PC, with Windows 12, Windows 50, and you want to run a DOS game, you own it. I have it. I have Quake, I have Doom, I have Heretic.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
these
yeah.
games. They won't play on a modern PC. You have to run emulation like in a virtual
To just
environment
run the damn
to
things.
run it. So,
Yeah.
is that wrong? I don't think so. I paid for it. I just can't run it on the modern hardware, but with emulation, I can.
It allows you to run it again.
Right.
And on the flip side of it, yeah, maybe you bought it 10, 15 years ago, whatever.
Oh, I'm sure.
Or what if you pick it up at a yard sale for $1? Your dream game. You're like, I always wanted a copy of this. And you
just
find
did
it
that,
at a
you did that
yard
with
sale for
Gods
$1.
recently. You bought Gods, which is
I bought Gods. I mean, I have an Amiga to actually play it on, but you could buy it on the Switch and the Xbox now. It's not expensive, but it's like, it's like, I don't know. I
Packer
just
Bell
figured
was
you were doing the
huge.
entire
In
stream
the
on a Packard
90s
Bell.
and 2000s, man, the Packer Bells were freaking everywhere. They were like Nintendo today. The Packer Bell was everywhere, and they were garbage, but they were everywhere.
They were the PC clones of the era.
Yeah, they were one step above E-Machines. Remember E-Machines?
Yes. Packard Bell, E-Machines. I mean, the list could go on and on. Gateway that bought Amiga. I mean,
Oh, you know what? I don't know why I didn't think about this before. Oh my God. I just posted today on my channel that through emulation, they're going to be bringing back the Conks multi-system. Does anyone even know what the Conks
no, I have no idea.
Okay. So in England,
we got 4 minutes. Go.
Okay, go. So the Conks multi-system was basically from Flare Technologies, who eventually made the Jaguar. Okay, but it was a system that had a steering wheel. If you took the steering wheel, you ripped it open, it became bicycle handbars. They had a virtual seat. You sat in, the seat would actually rock with the game. And it was pretty advanced. They used floppy disks for the games, but they went out of business. They didn't quite have enough money, Flare, to bring it to fruition. So they ended up Atari and Jaguar and so forth. But the console never actually made it out. Now, I have an emulator for it anyway. I've had it for years and years and years. But I guess they're going to make an official one from, I don't know, Jay Minter is making, his games available on it. That should be coming out. So, again, stuff that never even saw the light of day, you'll be able to get your hands on and try. And that's what I say before.
That's awesome.
I just remembered. With emulation, there are homebrew games that you would not be able to play usually otherwise, if someone makes a ROM cartridge of it. It's more convenient to put it on a software you can download and play on a PC. Or enhancements like Pac-Man 8K, make it better games. That's where emulation shows you what could have been done on these machines that weren't done at the time. So
yeah,
is that the devil? Is that bad? Does that require a $2.4 million lawsuit because you played Flappy Bird and your Atari 2600? I don't know. Is it?
I think we're still all figuring it out still in the end. I think Nintendo probably has internal squabbles in the company about emulation. And they
What
probably
you
get
you
pissed
do?
off
What
that
do you think? I don't
I'm
think they
pretty
do.
sure.
What do you
I'm
think
pretty
they're
sure they
squabbling?
do. I don't think everybody's okay with the lawyers going after people. Like maybe this Yuzu thing is a different story because it's already we talked about still being sold in stores, but I think that in general, there's probably people internally. Like look at Microsoft. I've know people that work at Microsoft and they didn't agree with everything going on at the top. So the employees would probably have a thing going, hey, what are you guys doing? Like I know Nintendo sued kids before. You know what I mean? Like I've seen stuff like that where it's like, what are you doing? you know?
Here you go, Steven. So this was the Connex multi-system. I want to say like around 91, 90, 89, 90.
And what did this play?
Okay,
Like,
so
what's
you
the-
can see it right here. So I got my mouse over there.
Looks like a steering wheel.
Right, it is. So you
looking-
can see this right here. So it is a steering wheel. But you could take the steering wheel and it would open up into like these handlebars. You can make like, a motorcycle or a fighter jet. See how they open up like a motorcycle? They made this here. It was a chair. The thing actually had motors in it. So when you played, the seat would actually go with you. So they were doing all these things and they ran out of money. They ran out of money, so it never made it out.
In what, the early 90s, you said?
Early 90s. I want to say late 89, 90s. And then basically the guts of this eventually became what we came to know as a Jaguar. The same company. They simply made a new chipset and went on. But this was just very interesting. I mean, look at this. Look at this seat. Look at that. You would put it on here. Put the TV.
Where do you
set.
put that in your room?
You put the TV right on there, and this thing was friggin' powered. It had a motor, and as you drove, the seat would actually give you feedback. I mean, that was pretty forward thinking.
I think that was too premature, in a sense, where the tech hadn't caught up with. You know what I mean? So,
but it was interesting.
Well, we're at the top of the hour.
We are. Okay, so again, everyone, Steven's got to run. He's got to pick up his kid. I'm hoping to release the STL files for the Build-A-Case Donkey Kong modification in a couple of days. So that should be out. Keep an eye out for that. For everyone who came into the chat, we had a good turnout like always. Really
73 people right now. So
appreciate you guys every week. I appreciate you guys even more. It was a horrible week for me. And I
had a doozy too with the operation and everything.
You got a friggin' little paper cut taken out, Steven. Come on.
Okay, there.
With that being said, everyone, listen, we really appreciate you guys every single week. Take a moment just in between this show and Super Gamer Dudes. Call your mom, tell your wife, girlfriend, whatever, best friends. Tell them you love them. Tomorrow's never promised. You don't know what's going to happen between now and then. But in between those times, absolutely.
Be kind, everybody.
Be kind.
Be kind and game on.
Game on, everyone. Have a good night. We love you. See you next Friday. What's that, Steven? Game on.